Hey there, Starseeds! Welcome to Beyond the Cosmic Table. We're a group of friends from different cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs. We gather around our table and initiate honest and open conversations on how energy and frequencies influence what we create around us. By expanding awareness, we're able to journey with practical guidance, leading to our highest awareness and conscious living. So, take a seat and join us at our table. In this episode, I chat with Ebby, who is not your mother's psychic. With the changes throughout generations, her readings needed to evolve beyond the traditional readings that may have taken place back in the 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s. It's less about predicting futures or removing spells and more about passion and purpose. Using numerology, tarot, and astrology, along with her own understanding of metaphysics, she helps her clients realize that they can create their own reality. It's not about, is my relationship going to work out, as much as it is, what is in my highest good for this relationship and what can I do to create the life I want? She takes us through where she started and where she is now and what you should expect from a reading in the world we live in today. Hi, Ebby. I'm excited to talk about our topic today. So what is this Not Your Mother's Psychic all about?
Well, the reason why I thought this would be a good topic to talk about is because in the year 2020, the reasons why people go to psychics and readers today is such a big difference from when they would go to a psychic back in the day when I was growing up, and even going back to when I first started being a reader myself professionally. It's just a different element out there, and the whole process is interesting to see the evolution of it. And I thought it would be really interesting to see how we could, take it down and take it apart and look at it. So what I would like to start with is just taking it from the roots. Let's go with the roots. For instance, Kim, when was the first time you ever went to a psychic?
You?
You.
Seriously, you.
Yeah.
I have never gone to one prior to you. I had my own preconceived notions of what psychics were. And
really? Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, I remember being a little kid. I was in the hospital from the time I was 3.5, 4 years old till I was 5, with appendix, tonsils, broken arm. I was always in the hospital. And I remember my mother taking me to a woman from the hometown that my family is from, and her name was Librada. And she would be in this really small little house, and it would be filled with people. And this is in Petula, Texas, a really small town. And all I saw was this woman in this purple muumuu with long gray hair, barefooted, dark tan. And it was amazing to see all these people lined up, and she would heal them. And I remember thinking back then, I want to do that. I also wanted to own a hot dog stand too by that time. So it was like a toss-up what I would end up doing. But then as I was growing up in my culture, it was common to go to a seer, a channeler. They weren't called channelers in those days, but to go. And a lot of it was rooted in our culture and in Native American style and theme of how they would do that. But the main thing was, here was somebody who had insight into your future and could remove a curse from you, or remove the evil eye that your baby may have gotten because somebody didn't touch your baby when they complimented it. So all these superstitions really didn't make that whole field an attractive thing for me as I was growing up.
Right.
Because I wasn't into the superstitious part, and superstition and religion, everything kind of went hand in hand. I mean, I have a friend who paid a psychic $300 to have 3 $100 bills on a tomato with rubber bands around it to hold it in place. and then put in a paper bag. And then the next day when it would all be squished, that would mean the curse was gone and the psychic got to keep the $300.
Wow, what a deal.
But, right, but these are things that people believed in, and it just wasn't appealing, to me, because when you're educated in a more urban place, those small town things don't quite make sense to you.
Right.
But as I started learning the cards and I started learning astrology and I became a healer and learned Reiki and started honing my modalities, I really shied away from the term psychic. It just really had not a very good connotation. Even though I was able to receive a lot of messages, it didn't sit very well with me. So I hung on to the word empath, like a lot of people, or intuitive. And then I started meeting people who were intuitive and psychic, who were not at all like the people that I had grown up being exposed to. And my mentors, like I had a mentor that was Cuban and she was into Santeria, and she was my mentor for quite a while. And
wait, I'm sorry, she was into what?
She was into Santeria, which is a religion. She was from Cuba.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's a religion that's mixed with like the Catholic and African.
Oh, okay.
Put together.
Gotcha.
But again, it was all around these saints, and it was all around asking for permission to have these abilities or this good fortune come to you, and you would have to do all these things. And again, it was what made me not comfortable with going forward with those things. I stuck with the cards, I stuck with astrology, and that more of a mainstream. And I started having exposure to people who didn't practice any kind of rituals, and then I met Jamie, and that really started opening my eyes into more of the quantum physics. And for somebody like you who'd never gone to psychics before, wasn't that really exciting for you to learn, you're creating, you're manifesting?
Yes. Yeah. And again, because I didn't have any experience with psychics, I didn't know what to expect. And I don't even think anybody ever referred to you as a psychic. Right. But when I first met you, you started with the numbers. And I think this was when we met at the coffee shop, and you might have even talked a little bit about astrology. We didn't get into the tarot until I came to your house for the first time, but that was all very new to me. I had never experienced anything with numerology. So when you were like, what's your birthday? And I gave it to you and you were able to share all this information about me. I'm like, wow, that's really cool.
Right. And see, that to me is not a superstition.
No.
So it didn't have any of that seasoning on it.
Wait, so can I go back a minute and ask you,
Sure.
Where did you start with numerology?
I started numerology at the same time that I started tarot. So I started tarot in 1985.
Okay.
And I was going to psychic classes in Chicago between 85 and 1990, 1989. So that was really my first group of psychics that I was watching, how the leader of that group, how he was facilitating us, and he was putting us through blind readings and doing all these amazing things. And then oddly enough, I got a job where I had a new job, a new boss, and this boss became my friend she's my very good friend. And we were friends for like 2 years, and we never told each other that both of us were card readers. Never mentioned it. I thought that was so odd. And then from there, I had a partner who on my birthday or for the holidays, she would buy me classes in Reiki or psychic classes or, any of those metaphysical things that I was so into and I loved so much. That was my birthday gift and my Christmas gift, so it was wonderful to have somebody who understood what my passion was and to support it. And then I met a girl in 1994 who her name was Sherry. And it was interesting with her because I had taken an astrology class when I was 20, and it was hard. It was so friggin' hard because at that time you had to look everything up in an ephemeris. So everything was degrees and you had to do everything by hand. It was so hard. So I let it go. But in 94, I was, not that I wasn't surrounded by love and support by family and friends, but I felt like I needed a friend who was a touchstone. So I kept putting it out there that I wanted a touchstone. I wanted somebody who could speak my language and get lost in conversations with the metaphysics. You know, I had wonderful friends, but again, nobody could speak my language.
Mm-hmm.
So I met Sherry, and she brought astrology into my life, and it was amazing. And she, I mean, totally submersed me, and it was like drinking water too cold and you get a brain freeze out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So she was another Pisces, you know, and uh, so it was interesting because 2 years after being in college with her for 2 years and taking classes together, on our graduation day, my last name starts with an S and her last name started with an H. And she was standing behind me in line, ready to go down to receive our diplomas. And I was like, "What are you doing behind me? You're supposed to be in the H's." And she said, "I decided to receive my diploma by my maiden name." And her maiden name was Stone. Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
So that's how I got into the astrology part of it. And just like you, everything else, the metaphysics and the numbers came along with the tarot and all that. It's kind of hard to pull the thread of one thing and not yank the whole thing on you, you know. But and the most important part I felt was whenever I would join a group or form a group, that's when everything would really excel and move at a better pace, or especially if you have a good facilitator.
Right.
You know, so that's how I came up with a lot of the modalities that I do. And I started doing it professionally. I had a best friend that she would help me pack up stuff, and we would go drive all over the Chicagoland area, down by Morris into Chicago. I think we did a party at a mental health facility once for Halloween, and it was really fun because it was for the psychiatrists and the secretaries and everybody. And that was really cool because they took us into the office and started giving us just the birth dates of the patient, of their clients, and we were able to give them feedback without knowing anything other than the birth date. And so that was nice that we were able to expand their thinking on the subject. Now with Zoom, makes it a lot easier. You no longer have to pack up everything, and you can serve more people at one time. So now getting back to your original question, why is this not your mother's psychic? It's because the people of today are asking better questions. And they're not asking the same questions they did 20 years ago, which is really like the Maslow. What is that? That hierarchy, that Maslow's hierarchy, where everybody comes to you first about their money, their partners,
Right,
those
right.
stabilities, the things that are stable. And now they're coming asking, how do I find my purpose? I don't feel fulfilled, and it's not my partner, it's me. There's something with me and I can't put my finger on it. And people are having more of a self-awareness on where they want to develop themselves and self-care and all those things. It used to be women had to wait till they were like 50 years old before they could start thinking about their life and what they wanted after helping a husband get a career and their children get through college.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're asking a lot sooner. Men are asking a lot sooner. Men are asking more questions about what is out there. They're not necessarily saying what's my purpose, but where can I learn this? Where can I learn that?
So in
And
your opinion, what do you think the changes from 10, 15, 20 years ago compared to today? Why people are asking different questions than they did before?
I think that your generation doesn't want to wait until you're 50 to, they don't want to put their life on hold.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have a son, you know, doesn't he turn like 20 this year?
21.
21. Jordan was right. Um, you know, you see how fast they want to get going in their life.
Yeah.
They don't want to be waiting around for somebody to give them permission. And I think that's wonderful. And I think a lot of it too is Gaia and
Yeah.
having aliens, you know, it is that ancient aliens on TV. It's really expanding a lot of our awareness on what's out there.
So basically, would you agree that it's the rise in our collective consciousness that's bringing people into their awareness to where they're asking more important questions, not surface level, but just more deeper, wanting a more deeper knowing? And because they can't connect on their own and get that information, they're looking to someone like you to get that information?
Yeah, that's exactly why. And I think not even, they don't even want you to hand it to them. Just like point the way, you know, give me an idea. Or else they're coming up with, I had no idea at all. And somebody, what do you mean time doesn't exist? And now people are jumping on YouTube. So you give them one little thing and they're going out there and looking it up for themselves. And I think also, I mean, really, is it just us, or is it that where can you not find a psychic these days? Everybody's a channeler now, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
They're all over the place, and you're getting these messages from people that are really channeling, but they're not being called psychics, but they're still receiving these messages and doing the work by people like the guy who does chicken soup, Jack
Jack.
Canfield.
Yeah.
How much of these motivational speakers are speaking the same language?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah, and they're speaking a lot differently now than they were. Because I used to read Jack Canfield books and listen to him and whatnot. And he and a lot of other people in that same area are talking a lot more metaphysically, you know,
Exactly.
than they,
Exactly.
like, I feel like they feel free to talk that way more now than they would have, 10 years ago.
And aren't health coaches also doing that?
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing it everywhere. And I actually thought to myself the other day, like, am I seeing it because of my own awareness, or is this, are other people recognizing it too? Or, the kind of like you attract who you are. So maybe that's why I'm seeing
Exactly.
it and I didn't before. Maybe, I don't know.
Or is our collective consciousness getting so ramped up and we're going out there to be of service?
Right.
Because what wasn't around 20, 30 years ago, the light workers were just starting to come in, just starting to be of service. And even now, you and I have ran into a few people who still struggle with being out of the closet with this,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something they're struggling with. And so imagine years ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago, in order to find a good psychic, everything was hidden.
Right.
You had to literally dig deep to see who you could go to and who went to them and what did they get out. And the minute you found one person who said, oh my God, I just had this great reading by this person, that one client was good for 10 new clients right off the bat.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Once you have a referral. So how, like back in the 80s, I'm trying to think back to when I was a kid, like the only way I knew of psychics really was when I was driving down Lake Street and I saw, this house with the flashing light that says psychic and, how did people find readers back then? Because now it's so easy.
Ours were all word of mouth.
Yeah.
All word of mouth. Yeah. And I met the one from my mentor from Cuba through my aunt, and then she knew a couple of them, and we would go. And I'm trying to think of Colleen and I. Well, we were discussing this weekend how I don't believe she's with us any longer, but there was a phenomenal psychic in Bloomington, the one that's over by Streamwood.
Bloomingdale, yeah.
Yeah, phenomenal, wonderful, beautiful woman named Irene. She was my psychic for at least 15 years, almost, almost 20 years. So when you find one, you hang on to them, you know. But again, those were very ritualistic, you know. In order to get your ex back, you know, put honey under your bed and do this and do that. And the people of today, I think, are, especially as you get closer to the urban areas, they're more sophisticated with that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not, and with the law of attraction and everything else we learned, I think we've really brought it to a more clean. I love that. It's, you know, have you ever gone into a model house and the furniture and everything, it's a nice house, but there's something not right. Then you go into the next house and all the lines are clean with the furniture.
Mm-hmm.
The aesthetics, everything's
Yeah.
clean.
Right.
That's how I feel that psychics are today. A lot of the psychics that I know today have very clean lines. It's very easy. It's not dramatic. It's very simple. What you put out there comes back to you. And they're able to give you information, but they're no longer giving you this information and saying, okay, this is it, here you go. The psychics of today are saying, this is within your highest good. This is your possibility and probabilities based on the energy that you're at today, right now. It goes back to you. There, none of us are going to put a curse or a spell on somebody to bring them back against their will so that you can take somebody to prom. Those things don't really happen anymore. Well, maybe they do, but they don't with the people I know.
Right. Yeah. I feel like there's still probably some of our mother psychics still out there, right?
Oh, I'm sure, you know, I think that as long as we have, that's interesting how you phrased that, because I remember I was having a lot of uh, clients that were coming in with relationship issues. And I was like, in order for me to shift that, I need to shift me. So I'm no longer attracting that kind of client.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have the same people coming with the same issues, that's fine, you're paying me, but at the same time, it's frustrating because you're not listening,
Right.
you know, and you have this pattern and you're looking at an outsider to correct you, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or to give you what you want, but you're not willing to get better. So I think that once I got it through my head and started learning more and more of a metaphysical,
Mm-hmm.
now I can say a lot of the questions that come to me with my clients are more metaphysical questions as opposed to the basics, you know?
Mm-hmm. Do you feel
And
that because you've gone more metaphysical in your readings, that now that's why you're attracting more people that are asking those types of questions?
absolutely, absolutely, I think that is exactly why.
So how did you switch, and when and how did you like switch your readings up from, the traditional to being more metaphysical, more about you creating your own reality type of thing, trying to really teach people that they can create their reality?
It was in the mid 2000s. It was when The Secret came out, you know, because it was so mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And I could direct them to the book and give them a base. And so when I would speak to certain things, they at least had a base. And people who could grasp that thought process and that style of thinking, those were the clients I was keeping, because I was no longer holding the hand of the client that just kept wanting me to point out when the next boyfriend was coming. So it was real easy. Once The Secret came, it just really ramped up. And then I would say once we started our original group here at the table, which was like 2017. 2016, I met Jamie Darrow, my friend Ileana introduced us. And it was so great because it was somebody who knew the same things I did. So then when we started the group, I really started changing things with my clients. And if they were going to stay my clients, they were going to have to really hone themselves, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I want people that we're going to be working, you're going to be working for your better self and not for a band-aid. And that was important for me. And if they didn't come back to me like once every 3-4 years, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
When I have to tell people you can't have another reading because you've come to me 2-3 times in 1 year, somebody's doing something wrong.
Right.
Unless you're going through a divorce, or you're trying to start a business, or something that's in transit, a transitional, I can understand that. But the rest of it, no, we should be here for everybody's upgrade. And here's the other thing. Have you noticed, Kim, what a difference it is before the virus quarantine, before and after? I mean, even the readings are different now, you know?
Well, what I noticed for me is that I view things differently than other people that are not like-minded. So when I'm having conversations with people that are more, living in the 3D reality, they have a much different perspective than I do where I'm at, and more of my 5D perspective.
So do you feel you have to tone it down a little bit, like your happiness a little?
Yes, I toned down my happiness. My whole conversation changes, and it's honestly, it's not fulfilling for me at all. Because
Right.
I'm talking about things, I can't talk my language to them. So then I just listen to them, and it's really not, it's not really dialogue. It's just me more listening to them, and me, because I don't see things their way, but I can't necessarily explain to them how I see things because, again, they don't speak that language right now.
Right. And I think that, I think it'll really pick up momentum. Like I said, there's so many things on television and movies, the books that are coming out. It's kind of hard, the motivational speakers that we talked on. It's kind of hard to not be influenced by all this.
Yeah, I mean, I notice a lot of awakening going on, even just in social media alone. Even the things that some of my family members are posting. Some of the things are still 3D, but then I notice that some of the things that they're posting, even if they're not realizing, they're waking up to
Right.
more, and so that's good.
And you hear a lot more people talking about eclipses, full moons. They may not know what they're really saying a lot of the times, but they're spreading the word. Some are regurgitating. I mean, who hasn't heard of the Mercury retrograde? A lot of people may not even have a clue what that actually is, but they're repeating it.
Right. They just know when technology goes wrong. Oh, Mercury must be in retrograde. No idea what that means. That was me a couple of years ago, by the way. I had a friend that shared that with me probably like 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I had to Google it when I was off the phone with them because I'm like, I have no idea what that means.
Exactly. So I think with all those things and the harmonic convergence, that people are trying to really raise the consciousness, it's changing the way psychics do their job, provide a service. And I think that it's more tailored now to the advancement and the upgrade and spiritual development of our clients, as opposed to just sitting there giving them, they're rattling off questions and we're giving them answers. Whereas now today, we're actually concerned with and care and invested in how can they be better? How can they do better?
So back to the harmonic convergence, because this is another new term to me within the last probably 6 to 9 months, and I'm still not fully understanding what it means. Can you explain?
Well, back in 1987, there was an event that happened, and it was like, it was an event that would happen every 10,000 years. And back during that time, which there was a particular placement of the alignment of the planets that created a shift. And that shift wasn't going to happen again for another 10,000 years. So we are in this shift of change from 1987 to now. So now when you hear, and even now it'll continue, but you'll hear about convergences in 2020 and in 2021. It's not the same thing. What's happening is we're taking the convergence of 1987, which is to shift the collective belief, the collective energy, and putting our attention, even if it's for 17 seconds, putting our attention at a time when the vibration of Earth is shifting and going through its own upgrade, where we're consciously putting our energy into an intention for peace, an intention of goodwill. And that intention during this time is literally equal. 17 seconds is equal to like 20,000 labor hours of work. And so
Wow.
if you take that 17 seconds of, of having an intentional thought, and if we all did it, doesn't even have to be at the same time, but if we all did that, that's how much labor hours is put in. So if you were to do 67 seconds, it's something like 100,000 labor hours that you're bringing forth. So with the convergence, it's all about trying to get people to see how important it is to meditate and to spend time outside of their 3D world and in a higher vibration. And so that we can catch that wave and know that if many of us are doing that, we can create a shift of balance. And that's what the convergence was working on. It was a very high vibrational spiritual energy that was coming in.
So this is taking place. So it started in 87, and then has it been continuing on until now, or it's because that's a long
Yeah,
time ago?
yeah, it was. And it's probably, it was certain cycles. Every time you end a cycle, a new cycle starts. So by that time, we're like in the very maiden part of this next cycle of time. So there's a lot of shifts happening, a lot of, like right now, astrologically, we've got Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto all in alignment, which is going to cause a great shift and transformation. There's going to be a lot of things going on that's going to force us to look at things and be more mature and more restricted in how we create this abundance that we're in. We've got Mars coming into the picture. So right now there's going to be a lot of testing in relationships and communications. So if you have a relationship that is on shaky ground, it's going to become even more of a testing ground for you, or it's better to just back away if this person is so significant for you, to know, to pick your battles and watch things from a higher perspective and not get pulled in. And I think that was part of that harmonic convergence, is to be aware it's not just my feelings that matter. I need to think about the collective. It means something if I come home and I've been caught in traffic and I come home having road rage and I'm referring to people as stupid. That causes a ripple effect out there. One person cuts you off in traffic, but yet you come home and you call the entire human race stupid.
Yes.
We have to have some sort of, be aware of how we speak, our self-talk. And that is the energy that we're in, because this is all the age of Aquarius, which is just like in the movie Hair, it is literally about love and peace. And we've got to get there. Well, we don't have to get there because everything's a choice, but having compassion for how people live their life, and it's so easy to point to other people as a separate group and point out your differences, but until you have the compassion to look at life through their eyes, we're not going to hit that shift.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like there's so much, well, there's so much for us to talk about, so many different topics to dive into even deeper when we get together moving forward. But this was a really great conversation. So to wrap it up, I'd just like to ask you, in terms of your work and how you serve, what is your favorite modality between tarot, numerology?
Oh my God, numbers,
Numbers.
because numbers never lie. You can know so much just off of numbers.
So just for fun, even
Yeah.
though you've shared this with me before because we're friends, but just to give the listeners an idea, my birthday is February 22nd. What can you tell me about that?
Well, if you notice, there's a lot of twos there, that's for sure. And I combine numerology with tarot. So the two is the high priestess in the major arcana. So it's about a lot about keeping things secret, keeping things hidden and deep, and not really feeling comfortable in an extroverted way. You can fake it, you can fake your socialness, but you really are more of a private person, preferring more one-on-one or a smaller group. Another thing that points to is that you're very intuitive, very psychic with those twos. And if you add the 222, so you've got 3 2s from your birthday, right? So that's 6. And we're in 2020, which adds up to 4. So 4 and 6 is 1. So right now you started a new cycle that we call the 1 cycle, and that is the magician. It is literally about you pointing to whatever you want and achieving it, and knowing that you're magic and that you have the ability to lead and create things out of thin air and to stand on your own. And it's interesting because that's totally where you are right now. And it comes on the heels of the dark night of the soul, because the cycles run 1 through 9, and 9 is about endings and separation and going into your hermitage and your own. It's like you had to go into a cave and touch base with your own psychicness, your own intuition, your own higher self. And then you come out of there and hold the light up for other people to see. And that's where you're at. As you're jumping mountains and jumping through cliffs and trekking where you're at. Yeah. So you're in a really good place right now.
I am. Yeah. Those exactly what you just spoke of. My numbers is exactly me and where I am today. So
yeah, I love it. And I loved seeing you have that journey. You know, and not to say everything's going to go smooth, but you'll be able to pick yourself up a lot faster and keep that momentum going.
Yes, definitely. I'm already seeing that. I'm already experiencing that. So
yeah. And what I really predict is that you are going to keep this podcast going for us. And we're so appreciative of that.
Well, I'm excited, and I'm excited about our future episodes. Let's wrap this one up because we've been on for a good 40 minutes. We wanted to keep this down.
Yep.
But thank you for sharing and comparing, the psychics of yesterday to today and how we've evolved. And I think it's going to get even more exciting. And as you evolve, like how your readings are going to change even more.
Exactly. Coming in from a 5D, 6D, 7D. This has been great, Kim. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ebby. We'll talk to you again.
All right. Catch you later.
Thank you for joining us at the table today. If you want to sit in on future Table Talk, please subscribe to our podcast so you're notified of the next episode. Also, please leave a comment about your thoughts on this topic and let us know if there are any other topics that you'd like to hear us discuss in future episodes. Also, follow us on Beyond the Cosmic Table on Instagram. We post behind the scenes content and photos there, so it's just another fun way for you to get to know us. All right, until next time, thanks for listening.